Hey guys, how's it going? My name's George, this is the legal bit, and in this week's video I'm going to be talking about 5 investment tips that I think those in their 20s can really benefit from. Without further ado, let's get into it. So first of all, I think it's very important to point out that investing can be a tricky subject. Everyone has their own sort of opinion on it, especially their own opinion on how people sort of in their younger years can get involved. And I think the problem is that a lot of people tend to sort of tell the younger people to risk it all, spend all their money on stocks, especially those people on Instagram or YouTube driving their sort of financed Mercedes, you know? I'm not going to try and do that. What I'm going to do is try and give you sort of 5 basic strategies that I think can maybe give you a good foundation. So if you wanted to later in life maybe try and get involved in stocks, perfectly fine, because you've got these to fall back on. So tip number 1 is to build an emergency fund. I know it's boring, it's too sensible. Who likes sensible things, right? But honestly, it can really help you out in those sticky situations. So the idea behind an emergency fund is for you to have a sum of money for you to fall back on in case things get quite hard. So for example, if you lose your job and you need to pay rent and you need to pay bills, you're perfectly in the position to do that because you have this pot of money, this sum of money elsewhere that you can literally draw upon, so you can sort of steady your feet, find your place, and then start to think about moving forwards. I think it's also important to note that the emergency fund should be in an account that's easily accessible and is also gaining interest. So I think a good example of this, I think in the US and the UK market, would be Marcus by Goldman Sachs. That account is easily accessible and I think it's gaining quite a good interest. I think it's 1.35% at the moment. So for example, if your car was to break down and you needed to pay £700 to the mechanic, you can do that without it affecting your daily life because you've got this sum of money that you can draw the £700 from, and you can get about your daily life. You can go and do your grocery shopping, you can go and pay your bills, etc. without it affecting your current account situation. And when you research emergency funds, some people say you should have 3 months living wages, some people say you should have 6. I say it all depends on your situation. What I would sort of suggest that you do, you start by putting in as much as you can, and then every month after that, say, put in £100. If you can put in £400 now, fantastic. If you can put in more, better. If you can put in less, don't worry about it. You can build it up over time, and that's the idea. I think it's very important to know your own finances, and you should have sort of a desired figure in mind, so you can put in as much as you can now, and then work out what you need to put in every single month after that in order to reach your figure to be comfortable in your own situation. So for example, you may only need £1,000, and that is fine. Some people may need £15,000, and that is also fine, but you should work towards the sort of goal that you need and put in an amount every single month that meets that goal. It's definitely food for thought, and I think it's something that you should really think about when you're sort of looking to diversify your portfolio, or even if you're just sort of starting out and looking to build a sort of foundation for your finances. I think it's a really good starting point. Tip number 2 is to invest to meet your life goals. Investing and where to invest is a very personal thing and should be done with a lot of research, consideration, and sometimes even professional recommendation. So don't be influenced by the people online, even me. Do your own research and make sure that it's right for your situation. So this tip is all about working out milestones that your finances can help you reach. So think of these as short-term and long-term milestones. So a short-term milestone could be something like, I want to go to Bali in the next 5 years, or I want to go to Belgium in the next 3 years. So investing for a short-term goal would usually require a higher risk investment as to receive that return at a quicker rate. So investing in a mid to high risk portfolio with someone like Wealthify or Betterment in the US could potentially be a route for you to take on this occasion. Of course, do your own research before investing. Those examples that I just gave are examples of robo-investors, so if you're not comfortable with that, don't do it. If you are, could be an option for you. Longer term goals usually relate to something like retirement. So this can be sort of setting up a pension fund, and it can also be investing in index trackers, playing the long game, and waiting for that sweet compound interest to build up. But the point here is to make sure that you're investing for what you want to achieve, and you may not necessarily know that right now, but I think it's a good starting point. I also think it's important to focus on investing for things that you want to do and not what someone else wants you to do. Whether that be influence from your parents, people online, a partner, whatever. Your life is your life. You make sure that you want to do with it what you want to do with it. I'm not suggesting you be selfish, but I'm suggesting that help others along the way, but make sure that you achieve what you want to achieve in life. That got a little bit deep, didn't it? So tip number 3 is an employer pension scheme. This is boring, I know, but your later self will thank you for it. So you should be enrolled in your employer's pension scheme, as all employers are required to provide a pension scheme. This is called automatic enrollment. There are some requirements that you need to meet in order to be automatically enrolled, and these are as follows. You're classed as a worker, you're aged between 22 and the state pension age, you earn at least £10,000 per year, you usually work in the UK. The pension system is obviously very different around the world. I'm obviously only familiar with the UK. In the US, I know you guys have the 401k, which is, I believe, is something similar to the pension scheme. I'm going to read something here. It follows a similar employer contribution system. You can invest up to $19,000 pre-tax in there as of 2019, so last year, with your employer matching up to a certain percentage. That's as far as I know. I don't want to go into too much detail because I could be completely wrong. You guys should do your own research, but yeah. Nonetheless, building up a pension fund is a very fruitful way for you to start diversifying your portfolio and for you to start building it passively. Tip number 4 is to invest in tracker funds. So what the Instagram stockbrokers will try to teach you is to buy low, sell high, time the market, and you only have to pay them £1 million to do so. And you know what? It can actually work. This type of investment does work if you're willing to go into high risk investments, but you're also willing to risk losing every single penny that you have. It's high risk for a reason. Stocks can be a lucrative way for you to make a lot of money, but they can also be a lucrative way for you to lose a lot of money. If you're more risk averse or just starting out, investing in tracker funds might be the better solution for you. A tracker fund tracks the performance of an index and allows its investors to gain wide exposure over an entire index. So for example, the FTSE 250 in the UK or the S&P 500 in the US. So instead of forking out $280 for one Apple stock, you can invest that same $280 into a tracker fund. And that tracker fund will track Apple, but it will also track Alphabet, Microsoft, Tesla, and many other companies. So what this allows you to do is spread your risk across a wide range of companies. So for example, if Apple's stock were to tank, which I don't think it will, you wouldn't lose as much because the tracker fund looks at the entire index and not just one stock. I must point out though that investing any money of any kind will not guarantee you a return and is a risk. And my final tip isn't so much a tip as to more direction to help you start your research. So I think it's really important that you start out by looking at your finances and realizing your financial position. You should then start to look at short-term goals, long-term goals, and then I think you should start to work out how you're going to achieve those. And the way that you do that is through research. So I'm going to give you 3 top books and 3 podcasts that you can listen to start you on your way. The first book is The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. The book itself has been around since 1949. It was revised in 2009, but it's a great place for beginners to start. If you're looking for some traditional wisdom, this is the place to start. So the book is kind of largely focused on value investing, which is a technique that Warren Buffett has used quite a lot. It's also important to note that this isn't a get-rich-quick book. It's with a long-term investment mindset. It's not a particularly pretty book, but it will give you a good foundation. The second book is The 4 Pillars of Investing by William J. Bernstein. This book not only teaches you different types of investment, but it also teaches you how to coordinate based on risk tolerance, investment style, goals, and time horizon. And with those 4 pillars in mind, that will help you get about working out your best asset mix for your situation. And then finally, The Best Essays on Investing by Warren Buffett. So if you're interested in how Berkshire Hathaway's CEO has succeeded over his years, this is a good place to learn from. It focuses on how to invest in the stocks, but also invest in the businesses behind them. This is a long-term mindset investment book, but it's also a very good place for you to fall back on if your preferences do evolve in the future. Moving on to the podcasts. The first podcast is Invest Like the Best by Sean O'Shaughnessy, or Sean O'Shaughnessy, one of the two. conducting deep dive interviews with some of the industry's best. This is a really good place to learn from, especially when you learn from these career investors who tell you about how they maximize their returns and they uncover the best investment opportunities. Number 2 is investing insights from Morningstar. If you don't know Morningstar are very widely recognized in the investing world. They are an investment research firm themselves, and they are a go-to place for reviews on, say, stocks, ETFs, mutual funds, etc. They offer weekly tips and advice on stocks that may work for you and may not necessarily work for you or other investors. And I think this podcast is a good place for you just to keep an idea of the market itself. Even if you're not looking to invest in stocks at the moment, you can start to gain some knowledge and insight onto what makes a good decision. And then last but not least, the college investor. I couldn't do this list in a video about people investing in their 20s without including this. So Robert Farrington, the host, looks to help college graduates understand investments and helping them build their wealth. So this isn't necessarily a go-to stock podcast, but it will help you to understand how to build your wealth in other areas and help to sort of diversify your wealth portfolio. It does side on the US point of view, but it's also useful for elsewhere, just understanding the fundamentals of how to build your wealth overall. So, the moral of the story is, build a foundation with your finances, thinking about long-term and short-term goals. Do a lot of research, work out what is best for you and what is best for your situation. And always remember, investing doesn't guarantee a return. You should only invest money that you are comfortable with losing. Do a lot of research, take a lot of time to consider, and do what's best for you. Okay, thanks guys. Thanks, appreciate you watching. If you could drop a like, it really helps with the YouTube algorithm. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.